Hey everyone, it's Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees with another clip from yesterday's retired teacher chapter meeting of the United Federation of Teachers held on November 28th. Let's get into it.
Bobby Greenberg. Hi, how you doing? Thanks. I just got back from a doctor before this meeting, and I didn't have to pay anything. Basically, of course, 80% is covered by Medicare. Pays 15 or 18, whatever percent is covered by senior care.
20.
8% is totally covered, and there's no copay. In fact, they owe me money because I paid for some co-pays in January, February, before I even know I didn't have to pay them. And now we're going to get them back.
And that's because our organization, the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees, won an injunction that stopped those co-pays effective January of 2023. Not Michael Mulgrew, by the way, because it was Michael's fault that we had them.
Everything is looking really good in that area. I'm feeling really good. The report was good, and
I'm glad to hear that. That's a good thing.
So, yeah, and both are good financially as well. What I don't understand is, as a powerful union that we are, I'm happy. I know all the retirees I know that have this are happy. We were not happy 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when there were threats and court cases and all kinds of stuff in the city council, whatever. But right now, for the moment, we have what we had before. And we were happy then, we're happy now. So why can't this powerful union say, this is the line? This is the line. This is what we had. This is what all human beings should have, all working people should have, other unions should have. We have it.
Yes!
Why don't we fight like hell right now to keep it?
Something we were here in the beginning when I first started speaking. So the issue really here is, as I've said, and I'm going to continue to say this, the costs rose. They are what they are, right? The costs were rising dramatically.
Okay, no, Michael. The costs weren't rising dramatically. As you understand, we have done an analysis of the rates of healthcare, okay? Senior care, like in 1997, was $88 and change. Today, senior care is about $204. That's not rising exponentially, dramatically, in any description adjective you wish to use. Senior care, Medicare eligible retirees, is not costing the city of New York any grave amount of money. What is increasing is the active worker and under 65 retiree healthcare plans. Those are the ones that are starting to rise pretty high. Our costs are very low. The city supplement plan's about $200 a person a month. An active worker under 65 plan is about, I don't know, $980 or $950, $950 a month. Single, about 2,500 family per month. Not a Medicare eligible.
The ruling that says the city is only responsible for one plan up to the HIP rate is the problem. It's not gonna, what you're talking about is sooner or later gonna go by. So how do we grab control of this?
And that's not true. The judge never said that. And let's just break that down right now, because this is not the first time I'm saying this. It's probably the 100 millionth time I'm saying it, and it's probably the 100 millionth time I'm gonna show it to you. Now, so here is the judge's decision. This was filed in the court system on July 7th. It says, preliminarily, the decision and order of this court dated June 6, 2023 is vacated. The following decision and order is limited to the order to show cause seeking injunctive relief. The petitioners we are the petitioners, the retirees, bring this action pursuant to Article 78 to annul the respondents collectively referred to as the city's implementation of a new healthcare plan for city retirees. Petitioners allege that the city has unlawfully tried to divest Medicare-eligible retirees and their dependents of promised healthcare benefits by attempting to switch the retirees from their existing healthcare plans to an inferior plan, the Aetna Medicare Advantage Plan. Petitioners now move for preliminary injunction enjoining the city from forcing retirees to switch from their existing health care benefits and from being required to either enroll in the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan or seek their own health care coverage. The city opposes the instant application for the reasons set forth below. The petitioner's application for a preliminary injunction is granted. Now, this was when we first started this. We first started this to say, hey, listen, this is bad. Things are going to happen. The city has eliminated all of our choices, took away our access to traditional Medicare, is forcing us into Aetna Medicare Advantage, or telling you if you don't want their inferior healthcare plan and being stuck in managed healthcare controlled by the MLC and the mayor, whoever that may be, whenever that may be, then you have to waive your city health benefits and buy your healthcare plan on the outside. And if you do that and you waive your city health benefits, you weren't just waiving them for you, you were waiving them for your entire family. That meant they were trying to force you to take their lousy plan, because that's the plan that Michael Mulgrew wanted you to have. And this also overcame the argument where the city the unions are saying that the city has to change the administrative code to Intro 874 to allow them to control which plan becomes the benchmark instead of the law, which says HIP HMO. Since they couldn't get around the law, no matter what they tried, now they want to actually destroy the HIP HMO value and the rate. They've suppressed it before, and then this is what they're going to do, is to try to force everyone into the cheapest plan that they can get, basically imploding healthcare. So you want to ask Michael Mulgrew, why is he imploding healthcare? Because he's been stealing the value out of the plan to finance his collective bargaining. Why are you imploding healthcare? There's a theory out there that Michael Mulgrew is trying to do this because he actually wants to make sure that the entire city eventually goes into single payer. I don't know. It's worth asking, Michael, why do you keep stealing from the stabilization fund? Why did you destroy the fund? Why are you destroying equalization? Why are you suppressing the HIP rate? Why are you trying to eliminate all healthcare plans and then tell everybody you're saving them? I have no idea. But this is where we are up until this point. So let me get through this document. It says legal standard, a party seeking a preliminary injunction must clearly demonstrate the likelihood of the ultimate success on the merits, the prospect of irreparable injury if the injunction is not issued, and a balance of the equity in the movant's favor. That would be the retirees. So discussion. First, the court finds that the petitioners have shown by clear and convincing evidence that there is a likelihood of the success on the merits. This is what Michael didn't like, because the judge was basically intimating, I think those retirees are onto something. The court agrees that it is likely that this court will ultimately find that the respondents are stopped from switching retirees into the Medicare Advantage plan, and that the City Administrative Code 12-126 does not permit the action the city plans to take. Moreover, this court also feels that some of the petitioners are likely to succeed on the merits based on the moratorium law, and that there's too much uncertainty as to what doctors and other medical providers will accept the proposed new plan, thus rendering this plan arbitrary and capricious as things presently stand. We did another video on that, so I'm not going to get into that, but if you do have questions, drop them below. The court finds that the petitioners have a promissory estoppel claim that is likely to succeed. Promissory estoppel requires a clear and unambiguous promise, reasonable and foreseeable reliance by the party to whom the promise is made, and an injury sustained in reliance on that promise. The petitioners have shown that numerous promises were made by the city to then New York City employees and future retirees that they would receive Medicare supplemental plan when they retired, and that their first level of coverage once they retired would be Medicare. Respondents have argued that the promises were not definite and were not forward-looking. The court respectfully disagrees. When words such as will are used, that is to this court a promise that is future-looking. Finally, this court does not believe that any prior case law cited by the parties is entirely on case point. This is a very unique set of facts. In addition, the petitioners argue that retirees have suffered and will suffer injuries because of detrimental reliance on the city's promise. The court finds this unambiguous promise is likely sufficient to ultimately find estoppel in this claim. okay, in this action. The court is also convinced that the action by the city will likely be found to be in violation of the New York City Administrative Code 12-126. This section provides that the city will pay the entire cost of health coverage for city employees, city retirees, and their dependents to this court. This wording is unambiguous and applies to this matter. Moreover, the history, listen up, Michael, the history of Section 12-126 shows that the city intended to provide all retired employees health plans and intended to assume full payment for them. This section was originally enacted through the city's expanded powers under a 1965 amendment to the General City Law Section 20, passed around the same time as 12-126, empowering the city to pay for premium charges for supplementary medical insurance benefits under the Federal Old Age, Survivor and Disability Insurance Benefit Program, Medicare. The New York State General City Law, Section 29-B. The 1965 resolution announcing these health benefits stated, quote, "It is the desire and intent of the city of New York to grant all of its retired employees a choice of health plans, Michael, and the city shall assume full payment for such health and hospital insurance." The city correctly notes that Section 12-126 does not require the city to provide a choice of health plans. Nonetheless, to this court, Section 12-126 does appear to be a codification that the city must pay the entire cost of health insurance coverage. There has also been discussion that the proposed plan is premium free, because you keep hearing Michael say, we only have to offer you one free plan. The city keeps saying we only have to give one free plan. That's not what the judge said, Michael. The court finds this argument unavailing. Michael, shall I read that again for you? Let me read that slowly. The court finds this argument unavailing. As the court notes that Section 12-126 of the code makes no mention of the word premium, but rather uses the word coverage. New York City Administrative Code 12-126, Michael, says the city will pay the full cost of health coverage up to the HIP HMO. That's what it says. So you're lying about the court decision yet again. But let's go to the next decision. That one's shorter. This was August. On June 5th, the court issued a preliminary injunction in the matter. That's the one I just read. The court has been informed by the parties that they do not wish for the court to hold any additional argument, nor will there be further submissions. As such, this matter is ripe for a final determination. The court therefore grants the petition, yay retirees, for reasons indicated in the July 6, 2023, namely that both the doctrine of estoppel and the provisions of the New York City Administrative Code 12-126 bars the action sought to be taken by the respondents. The court does not reach the last point of relief in the petition, namely that the respondents should be enjoined from disseminating alleged false and misleading information of the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. That's because it was moot at that point. Based on the foregoing, it is hereby ordered that the respondents are permanently enjoined from requiring any city retiree and their dependents from being removed from their current health care plans and from being required to either enroll in the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan or seek their own health care coverage. Michael, we've said this to you several times, and you still just don't want to listen that they don't have to keep doing this. They don't have to offer. The city has to offer a choice of plans, and they can't force us into a Medicare Advantage plan. They don't have to offer one plan. And based on history, based on past practice, Michael, the city has always wanted to have multiple plans because, come on, you're an educator, honey. If you have multiple plans competing against each other, you also have the ability of capitalism, competition. You have those plans competing against each other for services, which usually drives down cost. Economics 101, honey. Take a class. It'll serve you good. Let's finish listening to this teacher.
Issue and make sure we never allow that to happen in terms of making sure that high quality, no craziness inside of it, no additional cost, but more importantly, the high quality remains in place. What you just described.
But unfortunately, what you did to people wasn't giving them high quality. You were sticking them in managed care, sending us back to 1970. That was insane, Michael. And what you're not telling your teachers is you're trying to do that right now to the active worker plan. You want to force them into managed care, threatening that you're going to force them into HIP HMO. HMOs, managed healthcare, should be a choice. Allow people to go in and out of the plans that they want, what works for them. Every SPD used to say that. It used to say, choose wisely the plan that works for you and your family, Michael.
That sounds great. Except I know because of what the city is now saying to us, we're only responsible for one plan up to the HIP rate.
Then call them out on their lie.
The HIP rate starts to nosedive. Then they're going to.
What happens if the HIP rate starts to nosedive? You just said that. I can't believe you just said that. Did you tell your people, Michael, that you've been suppressing the HIP rate so it does dive? Did you tell your people right now that you're negotiating the HIP rate again? Or renegotiating the HIP plans? How many times did you change the benchmark plan? You kept changing the HIP plan to something lower. You're trying to make it impossible for people to stay in the city healthcare plan. People have to ask why. Your teachers should be asking you why. Union leaders should be calling you out and say, dude, man, what the hell are you doing?
Say whatever you have now, we're going to have to diminish it because we're not responsible for it anymore. Because that's what the court ruling told them.
That's not what it said.
All they ever talk about when we talk about healthcare is that piece. As you know, we're only responsible for one plan up to the HIP rate. They say it constantly now. To us. To all the MLC folks. So I hear what you're saying, but what did I just say about always planning? The union has to be looking forward to the future, both for good things and for really dangerous things that can happen. And I hear you. And it sounds simplistic when you explain it, and I would agree with you, except I know that that's in real jeopardy and it's going to go bye-bye in a very ugly way once you get an administration who says, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And we don't have to give them this. So let's lower the HIP cost and then just lower and give them what the court said we're responsible for and nothing else. That's the fear, and that's what we have to plan for, and that's why we're going to continue one way or the other, whatever way these court cases still need the administrative code change, and we're still going to have to go out and figure out a way to make sure that we're ensuring that the situation I just described to you, that can't happen, because right now it can happen, and we can't allow. We have to fix that situation now and make sure it can never happen. All right?
Sadly, Michael, you need to step down because you started this whole trend of diminishing healthcare for raises. You started this trend in 2014 by manipulating rates of healthcare plans, diminishing the HIP rate, suppressing the plan, putting in narrowed networks, putting in copays, and forcing people into managed care. You did this. That man is trying to tell you that he likes and enjoys his Medicare and senior care supplement. He enjoys traditional Medicare. And you're giving him all this mishigas about all these other issues that you caused, but are blaming them on another party. Traditional Medicare is the benchmark plan. It should be the plan. Senior care falls under the HIP HMO. If the HIP HMO is $950, senior care is about $200. Guess what, honey? I'm not a math ace by any stretch of the means, but I could definitely tell you $200 is under the $950. That is the HIP HMO benchmark. Why don't you tell your people what you did to HIP VIP? How HIP VIP was running at about 100. That's the Medicare plan, the Medicare HMO. That's like the sister plan to the HIP HMO for active workers. The HIP VIP plan, which is a Medicare Advantage plan, managed care. It's only, again, in like 8 counties of New York. You reduce that rate from $200, $188 a month down to $7.50. And you were manipulating that in that intro that you wanted the city council to amend the administrative code to make that the benchmark plan. So the benchmark would have been $7.50. If you were in one of the 8 counties of New York and you wanted to be in that HIP VIP plan, then the city paid that $7.50. That's the benchmark. If you wanted to be in senior care at $200, then you had to pay the difference. Meanwhile, the HIP HMO, which is what the court said the rate is, the benchmark is $950. The city will pay the full cost of health coverage up to the HIP HMO, Michael, not the HIP VIP at $7.50. That's why. Stop lying, and stop lying to your people. It's a disgrace what you've done to health coverage in New York City.